You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Good day. How you doing, Cindy?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I am well. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Mushie Moment here for February 14th, 2023, the Day of Love. And we're going to love bringing you this next guest.
We forgot to wear red. Look at
now
us.
Now I'm feeling green. Oh,
it's okay.
We're here live on paceradio.net. cbgtv.com, through Facebook, through YouTube, through Twitter, and Boxcast locations like Roku and Fire Stick.
Awesome. Good afternoon, Steve.
Good day.
How are you?
I am doing well.
Wonderful.
I truly am.
I just got home from an appointment, so I had to yank out a joint to smoke while we're chatting because can't smoke and drive. So.
Right. Yeah. Just kidding.
Yeah. So, do you remember that we've been nominated?
We've
been nominated.
And we're going to win.
Well, here's hoping. I keep my fingers crossed.
No, we're going to, because they're all going to vote for us. Now tell them how to vote.
Tell them how to vote. You can go to canexpo.ca. At CanExpo, you just go to the drop-down menu, and of course, you can see voting listed in the drop-down menu. There are 6 different categories. We are under the podcast category, and we are nominated as a network as a whole. So Pace Radio Network as a whole. All of our shows, all of our hosts are nominated for this award, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
We
and
get a little video. What's that?
And we're going to win.
According to Steve, we're going to win. But we have a little video that actually explains things a little bit more eloquently than I usually do. So why don't we show it?
Okay.
Well, that was a very peaceful ad.
That made me want to vote myself. Excuse me, I have to go vote. Okay.
Well, on to today's business. That is all of February. You have all of February to head over to canexpo.ca and vote. You can vote once a day, and we really appreciate every moment you take to vote and to help us win this amazing award. But for today, oh, look, I'm going to bring mine up faster. For today, we are interviewing this beautiful lady, Michelle Janikian. I hope I'm saying the last name right. And it is Your Psilocybin Mushroom Companion. It's a beautiful book that takes you through some of the history of psychedelic therapy, where it started, and she very quickly gets into what they do, how they work, and different ways of using them. It's a really quite interesting book.
It's
What do you
awesome.
think?
Yeah, I think it's very informative. It's quite concise. It's quite current. 2019, where she's writing about what's happening right now.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah,
Pretty exciting. So why not let's welcome Michelle.
I think we should.
I think we shall. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, Michelle. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. How are you guys?
Pretty fantastic, thanks.
I'm back here just cracking up. I love it. I'm having a great time already.
You understand why I like working with this guy, what?
Now it's all coming together. No, thank you guys so much for having me, and happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
everyone.
Valentine's Day. Yeah. Yeah. So to jump right into it, my first question is what brought you to decide that you needed to write this book?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really felt like the space needed a book like the one that I ended up writing. Surprise, no. I wanted to empower folks and like speak their language, like you said, because there was, at the time when I was writing the book, it was in 2019, and it was right at kind of the beginning of all this psychedelic, like medicine talk. But there was like two really strict camps, I felt like personally. There was the really spiritual camp and the really medical camp. And I wanted to just make something a little bit in the middle that explained both, but that wasn't like through that lens, because when I would read the medical stuff, or sometimes even the spiritual stuff, I would kind of start to feel like, oh crap, like I'm not doing this right. Or maybe I should do it more like this, right? And that just kind of put a little bit more shame on me, which is something that I'm dealing with in my own personal work. And so I wanted to make something kind of objective, kind of in the middle, like no judgment. You want to be more spiritual, fine. You want to be more scientific, cool. You want to do something totally different. This is what, and I interviewed like a lot of people, a lot of experts, just to lay it out for folks. This is what people do with mushrooms. Here's some like options, but it's not very dogmatic. It's not like this is what you have to do to use mushrooms correctly or anything like that. So I just wanted to explain everything in just easy to understand language, and every chapter is a different topic, and to just explain everything from the beginning. The idea was for a newcomer, but a lot of folks have told me, even though they're quite experienced with psychedelics, they found the book quite helpful as well. So that was the point, and here we are a few years later.
Wow. Well, I have to say, like the info you've put in it is well thought out. It's anybody that might have fears, if they were to read this book, you will quell their fears.
That was a big, point of it too, because I don't come from even a friend group or a family that's really open about this stuff, right? So I was kind of writing to like my mom or my friends who are scared because mushrooms are strong. It's a big deal sometimes, it can be anyway. Yeah. And to just really explain literally everything, not assuming you know anything, and to go from there and then help you make your own informed decisions on, if you want to do this and how.
Well, now you also go into some other areas in your book, right? Because you go the indigenous ceremonial, you go the psychedelic therapy, but then you get into an area that I love, that I find there's not enough on, which is the integration aspect thing. Now, the sections you wrote about, were they, how experienced with mushrooms were you when you wrote the book?
That's a good question. I mean, I think I'm more experienced now, but I had plenty of trips, journeys. I had a few ceremonies as well. But I came to the book as a journalist more so than it's like a memoir, right? And so that's the angle I took, is then I thought I knew, right? I thought I was experienced, but then I needed to do some investigation, right? I needed to do a lot of interviews. Essentially, I interviewed like 15 just regular mushroom people and like 5 to 10 experts as well to try to like keep it balanced.
Yes, because you've got good scientific data in there. There's, that leads to safety for a lot of people
Yeah,
having
and
that
but
in
but
there.
you have good scientific data in there without all of the hard to understand scientific speak,
Yes.
right?
'Cause
So
I don't understand that speak either. That was some of the hardest chapters to write. It's because I was reading a lot of these scientific studies and I was listening to the PhDs talk about it, and I was like, I really got to make this understandable for the average person, for me too. Like I had to study this stuff to understand it quite hard, and then to try to digest that into something
And then
that,
translate it to normal speak.
yeah,
You did an awesome
speak,
job.
right? You really
and
did.
to,
Fantastic.
thank you. I try not to like exaggerate or anything either too, try to keep it to the facts, yet in a way that, the average person can understand. I had a bit of experience. I had actually been writing about cannabis for years before I got into psychedelics, just professionally. And there was a lot of work to be done when I first started writing about cannabis. It was before there were any adult use states in the US, right? It was only medical use in California and some other select like West Coast states. And there was a lot of work to be done to just like translate this kind of health information, like how marijuana can be a medicine, right? And how it helps and how it works and why it can give you anxiety, these kinds of things or not, like what's the difference? And that all translated really well. Psychedelics also there was a lot of work to be done to educate the public, right? And it was kind of the next big thing while I was a really active journalist. And so that was a big goal, to try to do the same thing we were doing for cannabis, but for mushrooms and other medicines.
Did you think that you were going to be writing something that has the perspective to be a handbook for somebody who's in need? And when I say that, I'm not talking.
Uh-oh.
Did I freeze?
Just for a
froze.
sec, but you're
Okay.
back.
So I'm gonna go back to the question. In reading this book, I mean, I read it, and I work. I have a psychiatrist, and I've been working with her for a while. And I started taking mushrooms when I was, about a year after working with her, and I've been honest with her through the whole thing. I also told her about other psychedelics that I've run off and done. She now comes to me with all of her psychedelic questions, and in reading your book, it answers a lot of the questions that she comes to me with. Like, Cindy, what does it do? How does it help? How should you do it? Where should you go? So, I mean, this answers a lot of questions. And did you think you might be writing a guidebook for psychiatrists and psychologists and therapists out there? Because that's how it struck me.
I really had more the people who would be eating mushrooms in mind. And that's even when I heard your question, exactly what I thought first too, like people in need, like just a normal everyday person who's depressed or traumatized or just wants a little bit more out of life, even if you're not clinically, diagnosed with something. We all need help, right? We're humans. Yeah. So that was kind of what I had more in mind. And that was a really big responsibility that I felt while writing it. And that is part of why I researched everything so hard and tried to put it in the most clear language that I could, because I really felt that, not burden, but that the weight of that responsibility, and that people could get hurt. Like, it's mushrooms, but that I really wanted to prepare them for every possible scenario. But yeah, you're not the first person to have told me this, and I'm a little surprised because, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor. I only have an undergraduate degree, so I was like a little surprised on that, but it's great. It's cool. I'm glad that therapists are finding it helpful. I'm surprised they didn't already know it, but I guess they're not taught this stuff.
Yeah, no, it's not taught in school. I went through the same thing when I first started to see her, and I had my cannabis prescription, and she didn't prescribe it to anybody. But then after 6 months of talking with me, she now openly prescribes cannabis. But whenever she has a question, she holds off and she comes back to me. And then she goes back to the patient asking the question. And she's even stated at one point in time, maybe her and I should present a paper to try and get her peers on board. Which would be cool. Yeah.
It's just so cool that, you found someone, because that's a big question I get. It's like, I'm supposed to talk to a doctor first because I have, X, Y, and Z, issue. But people really struggle finding someone with a medical degree that they can be honest about this stuff with. It's really cool that they're out there and that you found one. I know there's
a few. Yeah. And I'm very lucky that I tripped across this one.
Yeah, mine was on board with me too, but he retired.
Oh.
Kind of a bummer because he was really good and he was on board.
Yeah, and he was open.
Yeah.
Yeah, the open-mindedness is hard. Yeah, but it's changing though. Things are changing fast and it's cool. And I'm glad that I could be part of it and help.
And things like this help because like somebody like me, like somebody who's not a doctor can read this and then they can take it to their doctor and say, I've got questions.
Yeah. Cool.
Right. And we need to, in reading through, I made it about 3/4 of the way through before we got started today. But you were talking about trep setters, and you gave I highlighted this one part because you gave a really amazing website, retreat guru.
Yeah. It's like the trip advisors for retreats, right? That one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what. So, I mean, is this where you found your ceremony through when you went to the group ceremony?
I didn't, but I did use it to look them up because the facilitators were on there. So I could read reviews from just like regular people who worked with them on there. And it did make me feel a little safer. It was like, oh, okay. Like, people are saying really good things about these women. They're like, now they're still friends and they felt really comfortable and all this kind of stuff. Because I was really afraid of not being comfortable. I'm not a big people person. I'm very introverted.
You were saying
I have
but
kind of trust issues, but it did help. To read about that stuff first and to see and then to meet them and talk on the phone with them. Other things I suggested folks do, like make sure you are comfortable. How about at least a phone call especially if you're going to fly out somewhere, whatever, right? Like, and so that and like everything in the book, it's not like affiliate links. It's just all my research and just things that I really thought could help people. And there's so much more since I've written it too. Someday I'd like to do other editions where I can just add more updated information because it's that whole space is growing rapidly and it's going
to be nonstop. In 10 years, your book is going to be this thick and this big and it's going to have all of this extra information. I guarantee it, right?
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
So since you wrote the book, what has the book brought into your life?
Gosh, so many people. It's a good question. Yeah, no one's asked me that. And I've done a bunch of these. Thank you. Besides of doing a bunch of podcasts and stuff, which is fun and it's great to spread the word. But, folks too, just like regular people who have reached out to me and we've become friends or just like other, really the people who it's brought have been it's been really special. Just really open-minded, thoughtful, caring people. Mushroom people, man. Mushroom people are the best.
Psychedelic people are the best. Yeah, I agree.
And also I wasn't really like any kind of fungi expert before the book. I more knew about psychedelics, right? And it was, like I said, was translating this kind of medical drug info into just like the normal everyday speak. That was more my expertise. But I've also just kind of developed this really big passion for mushrooms and learning about the ones that grow in the woods near my house and learning about foraging, growing, like beyond the psychedelic aspect. And a lot of cool mushroom people too, people who go to those forage events, biologists, they're just such cool people. That's been a real gift, I think. Definitely.
Nice. Cindy went foraging just 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago, and I'm going on Saturday again. I led foraging hike along with some forest bathing.
Ah, beautiful. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
aren't you in Canada though? Are there mushrooms this time of year? That's super
Oh
cool.
yeah. Yeah, the last time we went out, we found chaga, we found turkey tail, witches. I keep calling it witch's brew, but that's not the actual name. And then there were a couple of generic ones, like just like ones out there that they, like they had no medicinal value, but you could still cook them and eat them, right?
Cool.
So it was really awesome. Yeah.
That is really cool. Yeah. I'm a nature person in general, right? So all this stuff is just endlessly interesting. And the fact that psilocybin containing mushrooms just grow in the wild, I don't know, that like just blew my mind. It blows my mind every time I think about it, even though it's like not that big a deal. It's so, beautiful.
The only reason why it's a big deal is because the governments have made it a big deal to say that even though this plant, or it's not really a plant, it's not really a meat, but this fungi is growing and it's natural, and nature, the universe has given it to us. You can't have it. Don't cut it. It's illegal. Like, I mean, that's just kind of foolish.
Ridiculous. I know, the most ridiculous. But yeah, like whenever I'm on, a significant journey, and I remember that these are just mushrooms that grow in the earth, I like just want to laugh hysterically. It's the most beautiful kind of like, just feels, I don't know.
It enables us to become that part of nature that we actually are, that we forget we are. Yeah, but when you do them, they bring you into harmony with nature. They bring you into the proper frequency of what real life is.
Yeah. It helps you remember. That's kind of how I feel, right? Especially like in it or toward the end, and you're kind of like over the peak, but you're really still basking in all your lessons and all the experience. And you just kind of feels like coming home, like remembering who we really are, like as a species, as well as like a person, because I can remember who I really am as a person. It's a big reason why I eat them sometimes is just because you can forget when you're so stressed out and you're working and you're dealing with all your day-to-day stuff and you're worrying about money and the future and and then writing the book, I became a little bit of a public figure, and that was hard actually. Like, it's cool and I enjoyed it, but it also gave me a lot of stress. I was overthinking things or just thinking enough, really trying to remember that what I say is not just to the two people on this screen. It's like the hundreds or thousands of people listening too. It was like a big responsibility, a big change. And you can eat mushrooms and just come back to remembering like why you do it and why you're here and where you come from. It's like just such a gift that I wish that I just, wanted to help share with folks, not to be so afraid. There's ways to do this that are comfortable and safe, and that it really is like, I think like a human right. I wish we lived in another time where it was like a part of our initiation ceremonies or something culturally, right? Because it's so important and it gets overlooked, or it's so stigmatized still, even though there's so many folks like us talking about this in a more like adult, normal way, but it's not the average conversation still. And
it's still a fight with a lot of people. And it doesn't even matter if you're pulling out published studies and you're pulling out headlines on CNN and headlines on Forbes. It's still they did a great job with the original program of bad.
Yeah, I know.
But I find that it helps to walk the walk. Going out there and publicly and loudly, eating mushrooms or taking DMT or taking iboga or drinking ayahuasca or going after Kambo ceremonies or going after cacao ceremonies, doing this and doing it loudly and then coming back and showing people like, look, I've healed. It goes a long way. Like a long way. My father, who never, ever, ever, ever would have ever considered doing any of this kind of stuff, he has realized now that he's a very bad alcoholic, and he's working at sobering up, and he's doing a very good job. Just wanted to state that he's doing a wicked job. But he's been asking me about microdosing. Like he doesn't really ask. He's asking subtle questions, but this is how I know that he's leaning towards microdosing himself, because he knows the struggles I have had and what I have gone through, and he's watching me heal. I'm not pushing it on him. He's just watching me heal, And so now he asks questions.
Beautiful. That's the
Yeah.
first step.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, I'm glad.
So how did you deal with the aspect of your life opening up after you read the book, as a person that kind of is, not a socialite, so to say, to all of a sudden, because I know I did the documentary and man, I got flooded. Let's
Yeah.
just say social media, people know how to find you.
Yeah.
So, for me, I use the mushrooms. They bring out, like, they curb my PTSD. They bring me out of anxiety. They bring me to a good place. After you released the book and the publicity hit, what did you do?
Yeah, the book came out right at the beginning of COVID. So that was all kind of hard. And I had this whole like tour plan that I had to cancel. And so actually it was all online attention, which I guess is like easier to deal with than like, I don't know, being like Britney Spears and being followed by cameras everywhere you go or something. Like, I don't know. I just watched this documentary on Britney Spears. She's on my mind. Sorry. But like, it was hard at first. Like kind of like how I dealt with it. It took a while to figure it out and to like just get my footing. And then about like a year into it, when they, had really just kind of come to accept it, I did this. I traveled when you finally could. I guess it was 2021 more, when it was like more safe and I felt comfortable. And I did this kind of like mushroom season trip where I went to the same places we spoke about before we started recording. I went to a mushroom forage, like 2-day event in San Jose del Pacifico. And I got to meet all these these Mexican biologists that I always wanted to meet. I had their poster in my house. They make these mushrooms of Mexico posters that I thought were really cool. And I always wanted to meet them. And we had this really great 2 days, just collecting mushrooms and eating all these different gourmet mushrooms in the mountains. And in the same month, I went up to Huautla and I visited my source from the book, Inti Garcia Flores, and I stayed with his family and they just showed me around Huautla. And it was just, I don't know, I just got reconnected with why I did it, why I do what I do. Cause I did feel a little disconnected from it. I felt a little is this really me? Why, all of a sudden I became this mushroom lady. Yeah, I love mushrooms. But I don't know, I didn't think you don't think that part through as much. You don't really assume that the book's gonna get, I don't know, people are liking it, they're reading it, they're buying it. And I just, you don't assume that so much when you're in the middle of it.
My daughter, I don't know where she heard of this book, but she sought this book out and she bought it for me for Mother's Day last year.
Oh, that's
so that's how I ended up having you on my radar, was my daughter put you there.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's so special. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's kind of was the what you would call it, the idea behind the marketing, right? I didn't really market the book that hard, but I just, on my own social media and doing podcasts, I really just thought it was going to be people who were kind of already a little open to this stuff, that were going to be buying the book for people who were less experienced. Because the whole time I wrote it, I thought, man, people who use mushrooms already know all this. Who's my audience even? I'm writing a book for mushroom people, but they know everything in the book, which also didn't turn out to be true. There's a lot of stuff in there everyone could learn, but I don't know, you get stuck in your own.
Because people know little bits, but when you have it all laid out like that, that's a beautiful thing, because as we go through our experiences, we learn a little bit more, and this puts it together in a nice linear, logical fashion. So you can go, oh, this is where I am. This is what's going on.
That's so nice. Yeah, so I'm just so glad to hear that too, that's how you heard about it, because that's really how I thought it was going to work, and it did end up working like that.
But this was backwards. I'm the mother in this case is the person with mushroom experience, and my daughter has never taken them. But then she sought out this book to give me.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
And
on my end, it was John, my partner in the At Ease company, got it for me, and
so cool.
Which was something interesting, because I used to be a book guy, but now I'm a lot of online reading guy. So it was actually awesome to get a tactile object that I can just peruse and go through. And I thought it was kind of funny because I got labeled like you. I got labeled in my circle here as the mushroom guy. So it was kind of funny. Oh, if he's going to be the mushroom guy, you better read about the book. But all I can say is thank you, John. I'll look into the camera. Thank you, John, because I know he's watching this. And it's literally, this book for some people is life-changing.
Yeah.
And you know, that's beautiful work. The world right now needs a lot of people healing and their lives changing. So, you know, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for writing the book. Thank you for making that happen.
Which brings us to a perfect time.
It's the halfway point and I have to run ads, but don't tell the people I'm going to run the ads. Okay, so this one is sponsor. Just nod if I'm right. Sponsor?
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you watching television on Roku, Fire, maybe an Apple TV or even Chromecast? If you are, then download the Boxcast app and search for CBG TV.
Cannabis edibles are an effective way to manage pain and other ailments, especially when you deal with your trusted partner, Legacy 420, in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. You see, we lab test every product on site to ensure proper dosage every time, which is critical when consuming cannabis edibles. All Legacy 420 edibles are made by our classically trained baker and chocolatier, and we also have super tasty vegan options.
Our baker has been in the industry for 25 years. She's also a chocolatier. Everything from savory to sweet, your chocolate bars, brownies, butter tarts, you name it, we make it.
Talk to our knowledgeable Cannatex about our incredible variety available. Give your trusted partners a call. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
All right, welcome back to the Mushy Moment. We're live here at paceradio.net, cbgtv.com, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Boxcast on Roku, and Fire. And please welcome back our awesome guest, Michelle Janikian.
Thank you.
Okay, what's the next question we're going to hit her with?
A curious question as I was reading through this, because you did bring up a couple of different, well, you brought up some DMT at one point in time. Have you done, I mean, is psilocybin like, your only psychedelic that you've done? Have you medicated with any other ones? Do you have plans to medicate with any other ones?
I mean, which ones are we talking about?
There's so many out there. Like, I mean, like, I myself, I've played with, I've gone and done iboga. I have 5-MeO DMT. I have done some plant-based DMT. Psilocybin is a big medicine in my life. And of course, cannabis, like it's a big one of mine. Kambo is next. Cacao is soon after that. I can't remember the name of the ceremony that I want to go spend time doing if I can get the guts to go do it, but it seems to be scaring me more than any psychedelic. And it's a 10 days of silent ceremony.
Ooh, yeah, that would be,
Vipassana.
those are intense.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, so I mean, like, like you obviously you've medicated with psilocybin. Have you tried any of the other psychedelics for medical purposes, or do you plan to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like for me, I use psychedelics both for, self-growth and for fun, usually always wrapped up into the same experiences. So when I talk about, I don't know, like the word medical, I mean, yes, I've used other psychedelics and yes, they've always helped me, even if if it's not really a super intentional, like, oh, I'm using LSD today for this exact purpose. I think I like to go into psychedelics, not that often, like a few times a year. And they teach me so much, and it's always something different, and it's always really special. But, I actually am also a big fan of LSD, even though it's not from the, it's not like mushrooms.
It's still
it's from an ergot fungus. It's still from a fungus, fungus family. Yeah. I learned a lot from LSD. I think I like that experience as well. It's similar to mushrooms, but for me, it can be like a little easier to manage in a way, like a little less emotional. I'm a very emotional person. My moods can really affect just everything in my life. Yeah. And sometimes I like LSD because it's a little bit more intelligent in a way. For me, it's like, it feels a little bit less emotional and a little bit more like logical, and I can think things through in this new way that I really like. I really like that headspace as well. I also, speaking of like more synthetic psychedelics, I also quite like MDMA occasionally.
Oh, yes, yeah,
it's wonderful. Me and my partner will take it like once a year in a beautiful place and just like talk and look at the stars or watch the sunset or something. And we've gotten through a lot of we've gotten past some big boundaries that we had in our relationship, talking it through just on, MDMA, like just really beautiful like experiences where I can also just kind of like see myself without anxiety and fear and speak about it without the fear, and express it to my partner, and also like hear things that are hard to hear. Like you can't there's something about talking to your loved ones on MDMA where you can also hear these really kind of painful things without taking it really personally, by just like, you just listen and you understand, and you're like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. I do that. I should not do that or whatever. Right. I'm currently really fascinated and obsessed with DMT. Obviously, I guess that's like the process, right?
It's an amazing one. It's DMT is definitely one of my favorites.
It's
from what I've done.
Yeah, I've never actually done the 5-MeO. I've only broken through a couple of times on like NN-DMT, right?
Plant-based, it's beautiful too.
Yeah, it's really beautiful and just something else to me. Like it's very different than anything else I've experienced on psychedelics, which is why it's so fascinating to me. I'm like a little bit obsessed with it, and like like in my own art and my own work, not anything nonfiction, not actually about healing, but I'm really like interested in this idea that DMT might take us to actual other like places, right? Dimensions, like speak with entities, like intelligent. To me, DMT really feels like it's not really about me. They have their own motive and agenda.
Yes.
It can have like
And when they
do
get
with-
to you, when they get close to you and you get a chance to ask them, what is the agenda? What is the meaning? And you are going to be just hit with it's a beautiful experience to be able to finally speak with them once they get there.
Because it's scary, right? Going into DMT, I think every time I've broken through, and you can count them on one hand, it's like 4 times maybe, and it's just like, I think what I realized once I've really gotten there is just how scared I was going in. You know, it's just like some other. I don't know. It's just another place. And I'm getting over that a little. Maybe I'm ready to ask them. It's been a few months. I had this ritual last year. There was a lunar eclipse in November, I think. And it was like at 2 to 6 a.m. So I like went to bed for a couple hours, set my alarm, went up on my roof and started a fire and watched the eclipse by myself. And it was really beautiful.
Oh, that would have been powerful.
When the shadow was over the moon and it was completely red for it was like 2 whole hours. That's when I smoked a little DMT, and it was really another, it's hard to talk about, but it was really powerful. It was really beautiful.
I understand completely without even you having to say anything. Yeah, that would have been pretty wicked.
Yeah, and the entities that I met and the lessons that I got were really, really strong. And I'm really convinced like a portal was opened. And that's like, I don't know.
It's frequency shifts. It just changes our frequency so that we can dance in the realm that is around us, but is in just a different frequency state that with these particular sensors we don't get access to.
Yeah, I am really into that kind of idea, right? And that DMT can open us up to something that is just always there and can give us access. And maybe humans already
well, our brain creates DMT. We have natural DMT, so it is something. There is a purpose for us with it if we already create it. So it's a matter of what is the purpose. And at this point, the only people that seem to find a purpose are the people that go in and experiment with it.
Yeah, it's true. And it's crazy how it's in, like, psilocybin is only in mushrooms, right? There's a bunch of different species and stuff and different, like, that have psilocybin, but DMT is in plants, it's in different roots, it's in animals. It's crazy. It's like a portal here on Earth, I feel like. It's just meant to be utilized. But it just feels so different, right? Like mushrooms, it all is very personal and emotional, like I was saying. And it takes like, I need to really be ready to go into that, right? And DMT is also, you really need to be ready, but it just feels so fundamentally different. That's what
I found in my experience with DMT. DMT always takes me to a place of love. Mushrooms don't always, love encompasses every emotion, and mushrooms have no problem taking you to teach you the dark side of your emotion that you need to purge and come out of and walk to that light. But I found that my experience with the DMT is it allows me to feel and resonate in that frequency of love so I can understand what unconditional love truly is. Because in the love that we give out as humans, most of the time there's conditions on the love, and then the conditions hurt us and the other person. But they hurt us because we're limiting things. And what I really found was with the experience of the DMT was, and I found this with Aya, which of course, the active ingredient in the DMT, that it enables you to feel safe because you're encompassed in the frequency of love. So even if it shows you scary shit, you're still feeling safe in the frequency of love. I found it interesting what you said about your mushroom journey, so because I actually do it the other way. I take them so that I can unleash all of that emotion, so that I can go there, and because my PTSD, it just made me bop. No emotion coming out. You ain't gonna make that happen. So I did the old stuff down till, of course, you explode like a spring.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'm an emotional beast. And sometimes it's just too much, right? But also sometimes with mushrooms especially, you can really just go and sit in them and learn and like see them, your emotions, right? Like almost, I think I call it in the book like a bird's eye point of view. And it's like you're almost a little outside of them in a way, or you can like understand them better. But also sometimes they really put you right into your kind of biggest fear emotions, right? And that can be a lot. You can learn a lot, but
if you're not
it's
ready,
a hard
it can be
work.
extremely scary.
Yeah, if you're not ready, you're gonna resist, right? And when you resist is when like the bad trip scenario,
you're gonna get beat up
comes up. Yeah, and that can be hard to even realize if you're really deep in it, like that you're doing it, right? And I think that's something I try to like portray in the book, try to just remember in my own personal work. And it can be hard, but it's worth it. And I try to remember when it is like a little sad or bad or scary or dark, like there's a reason the mushrooms are bringing this stuff up, right? And don't fight it. You got to just kind of embrace it and lean in and see what's on the other side. I think that's when I do my most learning from mushrooms. But you got to really be in the right mindset for it. You got to be ready for it. And
well, I did Aya in the Jungle, and Aya gave me some magic words for myself, because you talked about your fear aspect, and I had a conversation with her, and I said, well, I've got fear. She said, yes, you do. And I said, well, can you help me? She said, no, I can't help you with your fear. She said, that's what I grant you in this dimension. You can have faith or as much fear as you care to dance in. Faith isn't a universal energy. It takes a brain to create it and the same brain to make it go away. And for me, that was magical words, because in the moment I feel the fear, because we're going to feel it. We're human. Fear is an emotion. It's a state. It's an energy. And the moment I start to feel that coming in now, it's like, no. That's me creating that. And that's not where I want to be right now. What is the reality? My PTSD makes me look for fear. If you look for fear, you'll see fear. So now when I feel the fear, I go, where is the love? There's always duality, and you just need to look for it. So if I'm feeling fear, there's as much love in there as there is fear. Where is the love? And I'm programming my brain to look to the different places. But, I take them and I'll do some high doses. So I'll go into those emotional states, and part of my PTSD is dissociation. And when I dissociate in a trip, I can actually be in analytical mode, analyzing all of the emotions. And it's the, oh, look at that. Look what's coming up here. That outside view that you talk about. That's exactly what kind of happens there. You go, I'm getting overwhelmed with this one. Oh, what is this? Where does it come from? Oh, look what I was carrying with me. How long has that been there? Oh, it's nice to release it. And after the trip, you actually feel that weight. You feel it gone. You're lighter. The burden of stress is so much lighter and freeing.
Yeah, it's beautiful, that release, right? That letting go. But you can't really do it until you see it. And sometimes, it's hard to see it, right? And it can be painful. I think for me on mushrooms, especially, it's usually like a lot of crying, when it's like coming up and I'm realizing it. For me, mushrooms are like crying medicine. I don't know if that's
but
just
that
me,
that
right?
just means you've held tears back that you haven't released, that you need to release, and the mushrooms say, no, you can't hang on to that. You got to release that.
Yeah, they usually come right before like the realization, right? And it's like, like that's what I was holding in. It's usually a type of fear of like a specific thing for me that was causing me so much pain or so much stuff that I really, don't need to hold on to. It's not serving me anymore, right? And it's really beautiful how the mushrooms can help me see that, help you think in that way, because it's so hard to think in that way just in your everyday life. Microdosing can help. It can help me like remember, right? Like, or when I catch myself doing the thing that I learned on mushrooms that I got to stop doing. I think that's one of my biggest, the biggest gift that microdosing has given me is like part of maybe helping my integration, like with these lessons, helping me really, like, I guess, like I mentioned earlier, mushrooms help me remember, right? And helps me go home. Well, microdosing can do that too. It's just, more on a day-to-day basis, and it's really beautiful. And I didn't really totally get microdosing until like a couple of years ago. And I think it's also a really important part of the whole how mushrooms are just so beautiful and so beneficial. They can really, it's like there's a phrase like mushrooms can like be your therapist, right? Or they're the best therapy or something like that. It's because when I'm in that space, it really is kind of almost like a third party there helping me process my own, you know, baggage. And it's such a gift.
Yeah, that's all I got, because it's done so much. It's done so much for me in my healing. It truly has. It's
beautiful.
You know, it's made it so that I could be on this podcast. The documentary I did, you know, I let them know ahead of time. It's my buddy John is the one that, you know, he pushed me forward. Now he's the one that keeps holding my back, going, no, you can't run. You're doing great. Just, you know, because my PTSD just made it. No, I'm not coming out in the forefront. But you know, with the documentary, I told them, if I show up, we're doing it. If I get up and walk away, we're not, because I won't know till that moment where my anxiety, or, you know, I've since learned like the panic attack thing. Well, I make myself panic. I don't have a panic attack, and I've learned the structure to de-escalate my ability to go there. But, you know, at that point in time, I didn't know that. And I told him, if I go into panic, you'll just see me get up and walk away. And, you know, I can't tell you how it's going to go. But as Cindy and I discuss quite often, we've discovered the universe has way bigger plans than we could ever comprehend. And, you know, I tell her now, I look back and I see a lot of my crazy moments where I go, that was a fucking crazy experience. I don't get that. Well, now I look back and I go, oh, those were all the footsteps to get me to my point of understanding now, so that I could be a part of this education and delivering the healing. And people can look at that video of me, whatever it is now, a year or two ago, and you can visually see the healing that I've made from that point.
It's beautiful.
Which, you know, that's beautiful and inspirational, not just for myself, but for others.
2 years, by the way, because it was 2 years, 2 days before we had our first podcast that I reached out to everybody.
Oh,
so that's how I know. I got the memory came up in Facebook. So
yeah, I'm that guy that anybody that knows me knows my grasp of time is very lucid.
But I think you brought up a really good point. Like, it's a strong one, right? About the panic attacks and how panic and anxiety, it was a lesson that I had to learn too, as someone with anxiety who was doing work with mushrooms. The mushrooms really kind of told me that it was my choice. Like, everything's my choice. And that was a big and heavy lesson to learn. And I feel like someone should have told me that as a kid. No, they did. But, you know, to really realize it down to like everything, every feeling I have, every way I act, there's no one else to blame, right? It's my responsibility and it's my choice. And I think that was the most powerful lesson that mushrooms gave me, and that applies to literally everything.
Yes, thank you for stating that. That is very powerful.
And it's hard to talk to people who haven't been there who have anxiety or PTSD or something, because it sounds kind of insensitive, right? You're like, well, it's your fucking choice. Oh, excuse me, sorry, we're on.
No, you're allowed to swear on this show.
I wasn't sure, I didn't ask.
Go right the fuck ahead.
We don't care. Yeah.
But it's like that can sound insensitive, but once you start doing this work and you go pretty deep, I think that you realize it too. It's hard to integrate, it's hard to remember all the time, but it's doable and it's possible, and it's a good place to come back to when you are feeling really bad. It's like, well, how did I get here? Like, what choice did I make after all the millions of ones that got me to this point? And how do I not do that again? It's like, okay, I got to accept that this is the one that I made now and we're here, but I want to learn from this and I want to move beyond this. And we're never going to be perfect. We're always human. There's no like end game to this. Like, it's not a video game. This is life, right? Like, there's no winning, but well, there is if you just become a little bit more self-aware, and then you can become the person that you wanted to, that you were really depressed that you weren't, right? Or that's my own experience. I have this expectation in my life that I'm not meeting, and that's what's keeping me down. Well, where do I go in and change that? Like, it's all up to me.
Drop
no one
the
else
expectation.
is gonna do it. Yeah, that's a big one too. I see it when my friends like come to me for advice. It's like, oh well, it's all starting with your expectations, right?
Yeah, that was. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say we've come to that point in the
Oh, my
show.
God. We're gonna have to have you back.
See, now didn't I tell you that this was going to be said?
But
the
wait,
hour
more.
goes by so quickly, and we really would like to keep the option open to bring you back again, at another point, and
absolutely,
and chat more about this amazing book and experiences and everything else.
Please, that'd be my pleasure. Thank you again so much for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Are there any final words, anything you want to say? If people want to reach out and ask you a question that might pop up from the book, I mean, could they do that? How could they do that?
Well, I have a website. It's michellejanikian.com. There's a contact form on there. I have my past articles, lots of good stuff. Anything you want, any of my work is probably up there.
Podcasts you've been on.
Yeah, a bunch of them. I got to update. I'm updating that page. I've just created a Google Doc, so there'll be more on there soon. And I'm also pretty active on Instagram is my social media of choice, and that is michelle.janikian is my handle.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm pretty active on there, and you can find me there.
Wicked.
Okay. Is this where I'm supposed to
yes
say thank you to everybody for joining us? Say thank you to our host. You are absolutely incredibly awesome. Your book is awesome, and thank you for doing what you do. It's amazing work, and it's much needed.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's super kind.
And now I hit the closing thing.
Did you say thank you to our sponsors and everything?
Oh, wait, there's more. Oh, damn. My sponsor list closed on me. No, don't do that. I love the chicken, by the way.
Yeah, they cued it at the right time.
Okay, here we go. Well, we're at the end of our show. Thanks for joining us here in the Mushie Moment for today, February 14th. 2023, the day of love. Happy Valentine's Day. Oh, there. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. We're coming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, paceradio.net, cbgtv.com, Boxcast, Roku, and Fire Stick. Thank you to my, I got it right, awesome co-host and guest. And we'll see you on the next podcast. Now I hit it right, just not yes.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.